And welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. This is the Monday edition that is aired on my Facebook page and YouTube channel. So normally what I do is I'll air an episode on Sunday. It's my college football reaction show. This is going to be part of my NFL reaction show and recapping the world of sports as well, because we've had Braves, WNBA playoffs. I'll talk about all that. And don't forget, on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page and YouTube channel on Tuesdays, I recap high school football, as I've been out of town, and I got one more week where I'm going to be out of town. And so there's been a lot of sporting events that's happened since I've been gone, but I'm here to recap it. And just my thoughts on just a crazy NFL as week 3 has been living up to the hype. I'm going to start with the Sunday night game, as if you're a Falcons fan, there's no such thing as moral victories. I honestly think that they played as good as they could possibly play against the 2-time Super Bowl champions. But look, my thing about this is once those 2 offensive linemen, Chris Dahlman and Caleb McGarry, went out of the game, different ball game. Kirk Cousins could not do what he wanted to do, and the Chiefs defense made the stops when it mattered. I thought the Falcons defense played very well, holding the Chiefs to field goals, stopping Patrick Mahomes 2 times, a 3-and-out in the second half. And even though the Chiefs dominated time of possession in that first half and partly in the second half as well, the Falcons were able to get the ball back. They're down 22-14. They kick a field goal. They get the ball back, and they drive all the way to the length of the field, and they decide to go for it the first time. They don't get it. They have all their timeouts. I think that was the right decision there, although I would have loved it if they would have kicked the field goal. They're down 22-20, and, Patrick Mahomes hasn't really been spectacular. Travis Kelce has been a shell of himself. Rashid Rice had a pretty good game. He did go out, and then Juju Smith-Schuster had that pick play with the touchdown. But the Falcons get the ball back. And I got to be honest with you, there was a lot of penalties on that drive that sustained the drive for the Falcons. I mean, there were some questionable calls. That was pass interference in the end zone on Kyle Pitts the first time. When they went for it on 4th down, the first time when they were down in the red zone, clearly pass interference on Kyle Pitts. They should have got it. The whole time I'm thinking Falcons are going to score, but please do not give Patrick Mahomes any time. I've seen Patrick Mahomes score in 13 seconds, and all they need to do is kick a field goal if the Falcons were going to go up. Unfortunately, that toss sweep to Bijan Robinson was a terrible call. Nick Bolton, who's been the captain on that defense, who has this Super Bowl experience, the Chiefs defense steps up when it matters the most. I've seen them do this in the Super Bowl against my 49ers. Steve Spagnuolo, when the game's on the line, he dials up the perfect defensive call that ends up stifling your offense. And that's exactly what happened to the Atlanta Falcons. Nick Bolton goes in and gets the stop. On 4th and inches, you need a quarterback sweep. I know you got a backup center in there, or you need a quarterback sneak. You need to get it on 4th and inches. If the Falcons get it on 4th and inches, they're running out the clock and they're putting it in the end zone and they win the ball game. Falcons are 1-2. Chiefs are the luckiest 3-0 in NFL history. I don't know how the Kansas City Chiefs are 3-0. They are not playing like the two-time Super Bowl champions. Falcons should have won this game. I thought that the announcers were pretty neutral. I seriously thought going into this game that the announcers were going to favor the Chiefs. No sign of Taylor Swift. I did not see Taylor Swift at all on the broadcast. She might not even have been there. But I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are not going to win the Super Bowl this year. I was not impressed with the Chiefs. I actually was a little bit more impressed with the Falcons. I hope that their offensive line can get healthier, because with a healthy offensive line, Kirk Cousins can thread the needle. I mean, I do believe in Kirk Cousins. What an upgrade from Desmond Ridder. Kirk Cousins utilizing his receivers, Drake London, a physical receiver, Kyle Pitts, probably the longest play from scrimmage for Kyle Pitts in the game. Falcons played their heart out. They should have won this game, and there is no moral victories in the NFL. It gets tougher because they do take on the New Orleans Saints next week. Speaking of those New Orleans Saints, as they got taken from the ranks of the unbeaten Eagles, needed this game because I think if the Eagles would have lost this game, Nick Sirianni would have been on the hot seat. The Saints were leading most of this game, but Saquon Barkley, this is the reason why the Eagles got him. He takes over the game. The Eagles still did not have A.J. Brown, but Dallas Goedert just had a career day, and the Eagles ended up getting the win. And if you're a Falcons fan, you got to feel pretty good that the Saints lost, and so you don't really gain a whole lot. Like, they're not gaining a whole lot of ground on the Falcons, so that is good. And we got another NFC South team that ended up winning or ended up losing. We'll talk about that other NFC South team that pulled off the shocker of the day. But the Denver Broncos pick up their first win of the season. I actually was shocked that the Buccaneers lost at home to the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix picks up his first win as a Denver Bronco. So congratulations to him. Let's talk about that other team in the NFC South. How about those Carolina Panthers? I did not see this coming. Andy Dalton, 3 touchdown passes. And, the Panthers, it's clear that Bryce Young was not the answer. You get a veteran like Andy Dalton in here, and, he's got some weapons. Chuba Hubbard's a good running back. I mean, you got that Deontay Johnson, who used to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Adam Thielen got a touchdown pass. And the Carolina Panthers pretty much shocked the whole league by beating the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that beat the Baltimore Ravens last week. And so this is a big win. I think that Andy Dalton's obviously he's going to be the starter going forward. What do you do with Bryce Young? Look, I mean, this has really been a mess. And I've never really liked the ownership group with Dave Tepper. I think that he's one of the worst owners in sports. And I really mean that, because the days of stability with the Carolina Panthers, with Ron Rivera and Cam Newton, and then John Fox getting them to the Super Bowl with Jake Delhomme, maybe Andy Dalton is the answer, but he's not the long-term answer at quarterback. Carolina Panthers got to do something. All right, going down the scores of the NFL, the Detroit Lions get back on track. I actually thought that Arizona at home was going to win this game because Kyler Murray looked fantastic against the Rams. But the Detroit Lions, they go to 2-1. So that was a very good win. Sam Laporta ended up getting hurt in this game. But Jared Goff, very efficient. Same with Kyler Murray, both that had great games. How about Malik Willis for the Green Bay Packers, getting the 30-14 win over the winless Tennessee Titans? And Jordan Love might be ready next week. And Malik Willis, not necessarily a revenge game. He said a lot of great things about his former team, the Tennessee Titans. But Malik Willis had a very good game. I think that Green Bay has got a very underrated defense. Josh Jacobs is an upgrade from Aaron Jones, and I've said that before. Speaking of Aaron Jones, his new team in the Minnesota Vikings are 3-0. I'm going to have my ranking show on tomorrow's show, kind of like the herd hierarchy. I think that the Minnesota Vikings are probably going to make my top 10. Definitely. Sam Darnold has really resurrected his career. And I know that Vikings fans felt hopeless that J.J. McCarthy went out with that injury. But, I mean, you've got Dallas Turner on the defense. That defense is underrated and led by the former Miami Dolphins head coach, Brian Flores. I mean, that is a very underrated defense. You saw what they did to the 49ers last week. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in football. Aaron Jones, a good running back. And the Minnesota Vikings took it to the Houston Texans, which I thought that the Texans were going to win this game. But C.J. Stroud ends up throwing 2 picks, and it just wasn't the Texans' day. So a great win for the Minnesota Vikings. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-0. I know Justin Herbert was a little hobbled, but Justin Fields is 3-0. Is he not the starter going forward? I know that Russell Wilson might be healthy, but it's the defense that's leading the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got the weapons, Najee Harris, George Pickens, Freiermuth, the tight end. I think that having Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator is really making a difference in that offense. I think that Justin Fields is comfortable in Arthur Smith's offense, and I can't believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-0. I'm kind of interested to see how far they go in my rankings as well. Some of the other games, the Seattle Seahawks are 3-0. They get a huge 24-3 win over the Miami Dolphins. It's over. I don't think that Tua Tagovailoa is coming back this season. I think that the Miami Dolphins are so hobbled, they'll miss out on the playoffs, and I think they need to go find a quarterback in the draft. I think that with the third concussion for Tua, I think that his NFL career is over. But they were banged up. Raheem Mostert wasn't playing, and the Seahawks did a great job blanketing Tyreek Hill. Anytime you go into the 12th man up in the Pacific Northwest, it is very hard to get a win. And when you don't have competent quarterback play, it is almost impossible to get a win up in Seattle. And the Seattle Seahawks, 3-0 under new head coach Michael McDonald. And I think that the Seattle Seahawks are a sleeper team. I do think that Geno Smith is limited, but they do have some weapons on the outside. I mean, they have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and they also have Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, they got a very good trio of wide receivers. All right. I would say that this is the game of the day. Baltimore was up big on Dallas. Dallas was able to recover an onside kick. They came back, and Baltimore ends up putting the game away. There's no way a Baltimore Ravens team is going to start 0-3. The Ravens are just the better team than the Dallas Cowboys. Derrick Henry was doing his thing, but the Dallas Cowboys playing at home, they kind of feel like they should have won this game. Well, they got to regroup because they got a short week. They play the Giants, by the way, who beat the Cleveland Browns. So they pick up their first win of the season. And so the Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys fans are going to, lick their wounds, and they're going to say that this was a game that they should have won. But clearly the Baltimore Ravens were the better team. And the Ravens should be 3-0 right now, not 1-2. And then I don't have any graphics for these games, but the Colts ended up beating the Bears 21-6. I don't know if Caleb Williams is the answer at quarterback. And also, I talked about the Giants beating the Browns 21-15. And finally, I ended up saving this game for last because I do have a lot of thoughts on this game. Oh, boy. The San Francisco 49ers, many of you know, they're my team. Anytime they play a hated rival, it's personal. And I know that Kyle Shanahan has dominated this regular season series with Sean McVay. Remember, the Rams beat him in the NFC Championship back in 2022. The 49ers were up 14-0. Brock Purdy looked great. 3 touchdowns, all to Juwan Jennings. They go up 14-0. The Rams were without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. The 49ers without Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle. I still thought the 49ers had the advantage because they had the better coach. And it's not really a home field advantage for the Rams because it seemed like there's more 49ers fans there at SoFi. But Matthew Stafford proved that he is still a top 5 quarterback. You don't have any weapons, but you still have Tutu Atwell. You still have Kyron Williams, who had 3 rushing touchdowns. That's unheard of on a 49ers defense. And you have Sean McVay, who has something to prove. And the Rams were desperate. They did not want to start 0-3. That long 17-play, 85-yard drive that took all that time off the clock, when they scored that touchdown to make it 14-7, I admit, I was getting a little nervous. And then the 49ers ended up scoring a touchdown, and it was 21-14. They kicked the field goal to go up 24-14. And this is where I kind of was hoping that they would just go for it and just put the game away and go up 28-14, because we know that Kyle Shanahan is known for blowing double-digit leads. We also know if you give Matthew Stafford time, he is going to march down the field and score a touchdown. That's just what he does. He is a master in the 2-minute offense. And even though I don't think the 49ers were playing that conservative, Brock Purdy is not Matthew Stafford. Brock Purdy's good, but he can't make special plays when the plays break down. When you don't have George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, or Christian McCaffrey, when you're in a situation where you're in 3rd and long, the Rams know that you're going to try to target Juwan Jennings, or where was Brandon Ayuk? Brandon Ayuk got all that money, and he was disappeared, completely disappeared. So the 49ers were completely limited. Jordan Mason really didn't have a great game, and the Rams took advantage of that. And look, I love Jake Moody. He kicked 2 50-yard field goals in the Super Bowl, but that 55-yard field goal attempt that would have put the 49ers up by 2 scores. I think that, man, I don't know what to say. I was hoping that he would make that, but yeah, it was tough luck. Once he missed, I knew that the Rams were going to at least tie it. All right, so the Rams go down to tie it. It's 24-24. 49ers have about a minute and some change to march down the field to try to kick the game-winning field goal. When that didn't happen, the Rams get the ball back, a pass interference call. It is heartbreaking. I mean, the sky's not falling yet. I mean, the 49ers lost 2 road games against 2 teams that are probably going to make the playoffs. The 49ers are 1-2. I mean, I'm not completely complaining at all. I would rather see all these players healthy toward the end of the season. But when you're talking about, trying to win the division or get the number 1 seed because your road will be easier to get to the Super Bowl, it's going to be a lot tougher now for the 49ers, who do have some winnable games. They play the Patriots at home and they play the Cardinals at home before they go up to the Pacific Northwest to take on the Seattle Seahawks. I think all those games are winnable games. But here's the thing. You got to get healthy. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle all need to come back. Ricky Pearsall needs to come back, because I still believe that Brock Purdy is the guy. Even though he may not be special like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Matthew Stafford for that matter, but he still is the guy. Well, that was my NFL reaction portion of the Sports Beat, and we do have a little bit of time left in the show. Atlanta Braves got a big 3-game series. You might as well treat this as a postseason series, because they're taking on the Mets. They're down 2 games. Actually, the Arizona Diamondbacks are playing the Giants. The Diamondbacks and the Mets are tied for that final wild card spot. The Braves are 2 back from the Diamondbacks and the Mets. I mean, it would be easier if the Braves could just beat the Mets to climb back into this thing, but you're also rooting for the Giants to beat the Diamondbacks. Maybe you can knock them out and you could try to get the number 5 seed. But the Braves have made the playoffs every year since 2017, and I know that they want to keep that postseason streak alive. And meanwhile, other games, Oakland says goodbye to the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, which as a kid, I went there many times to see A's games, and they say goodbye. The Oakland Athletics will be no more after this season. They will move to Sacramento for a couple of years before that new ballpark in Vegas will be ready. And so with Major League Baseball season winding down, we hit October in a couple of weeks, and we get ready for the Major League Baseball season. WNBA playoffs. I do want to talk about WNBA playoffs just because I admit I was double boxing it. I was watching the 1 o'clock afternoon game on the NFL, but I also had on the big screen the WNBA playoff game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun. I just wanted to see how Caitlin Clark react in her first ever postseason game. She didn't do very well. It was nothing to be excited about. 4 of 17, 2 of 3 from downtown, 11 points. I think that the Connecticut Sun did a wonderful job defending her. And, yeah, it's going to be tough. They drop game 1. Wow. We've had a great show. As I'm losing my voice, I want to thank everybody. Hang on a second. We're going to take a break real quick. We'll be right back.
I'm thirsty.
Try this.
Starry.
It's a lemon lime soda that's crisp, clear, and
So refreshing.
bro, chill. It was a soda.
Starry lemon lime soda. It's different.
All right. I had to get water. I want to thank Starry for being a sponsor for the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. But it's been a great show. I want to thank everybody that has watched the show. Stay tuned for the high school scoreboard show that's going to air on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Facebook page and YouTube channel. Hope everybody has a great rest of your night, everybody.